Okay, now the camera start recording. So basically, anywhere in this room, right, it can be captured, something like that. I will show you the picture later. Okay, now let's start with a brief history about art, right? There are a lot of things, right? But I will talk about something that obvious or something that we can use it, in the exercise. Okay. First one, right? This picture is the painting from the Lascaux painting in France. So when they found it, right, they realized, it's like very, very old painting, like 17,000 years ago, right? People already created some art, right? But what the purpose of this? What do you think? Is it beautiful? You think it's beautiful? What it can tell you? By looking at this picture, right, what you can tell? What you see? You see some animal, right? And what kind of animal? Is this only one kind of animal, or there are many kind of animal? Right? They have like maybe this animal is kind of like a bull, or this one is look like a horses, and they have some like a deer, and there are many of them, right? So that in that time, right, human already think about communicating, right? They want to keep the record, or they want to to do something to to communicate with people, or to record this certain kind of information, right? By expressing some of the image, or like creating some image, and they use available media that they have. In that time, maybe they just have only maybe a dust, a mud, or some charcoal, or some wood, or something that they burn, and then they can scratch on the stone or something, right? And then when it comes to to the Greek and Roman, right, which is the most of the art history in modern world was studied, right? Most is referred to the ancient Greek and Roman, right? But they didn't refer to the Chinese culture, right? They're probably interested, maybe because of the subject is referred to the art history, and the Westerner is they're doing the record this matter. But if the Chinese recording, right? So they may be talking about Chinese history, art history, something like that, right? And then, but when we study the Western art, we always refer to the Greek and Roman. And in that time, right, what is the benefit or what is the beauty of this thing here, right? So that time, right, what you see from here, they start during the Greek and Roman. They start doing art in terms of the form of sculpture, right, and the bas-reliefs, and also architecture. So you can see a lot of civilization left, like the Parthenon, the temple, right, and also a lot of sculpture, which is, make it from the stone or from the marble. You see the shape of it is very realistic, right? So this means in that time people like to see the human body, right? So they believe it's beautiful. So that's why they're doing that. They want to capture something that when you look at it, you feel good about it, right? So that's when they're doing this kind of sculpture, is telling certain kind of story, right? You can see the two figure is different size, right? And also you see like a big snake right here. So it indicates certain thing, right? And you can see the face, expression from the face. Those kind of thing is indicate the motion, the emotion of the artwork. Then, when it comes to the Roman Empire, right? We call Byzantine. Someone heard about this period, Byzantine? This period is about most of this is the picture of the Emperor Justinian and his regime in what the technique that they create, right? They're using a mosaic. Before you saw, right? They're using the hand to paint, right? Or they're using the sculpture, right? To sculpt the stone. But in this one, right? You know what is mosaic is? Mosaic is a little piece of ceramic. Yeah, a little piece of ceramic. And you put, piece by piece together, to create image, right? So that means the art is not necessarily to create with one media, right? It can create with a lot of kind of media, many kind of media. Even though the painting is also have a lot of things. So during this Byzantine period, right, is talking about the let me try to save this to my computer and see if it's working. Okay, let's try direct download. Yeah. So if you like, you can download this to your computer at home. For someone who just step in, right, and will tell you the link later. Or you can ask your friend. Okay, let me open up in PowerPoint so you can see better. Okay, now it's nicer. So, right. So right now, in this period on the Byzantine, right, the art probably influenced by religion, right? Same thing in Thailand. If you go to see the temple, right, most of the painting in the temple, right, of course, is influenced by religion, right? And the same thing in here, right? The Christian, right, is also have very strong influence to the art. Like in this one, is representing the divine, and it's like not a naturalism, but it's more like when you look at it, you will feel, oh, okay, this is very powerful. This is like very mystery. Like this is, the emperor become a god or something. And then after that, right, you can see the development, right? Now on this one is painting. So we call medieval period. You will see the story that talking about the artwork, right? It's more like a story about illustrating the God. The supremacy of the God. So you can see the Jesus with the light, right? And also you see the angel, when Jesus died, right? So you see a lot of angel come and they sad or something, right? So most of the art is served to the religion. And now this one is called early Renaissance, right? When you're talking about Renaissance, right? I think a lot of you heard about this period. It's quite famous period, right? Renaissance. Have you ever seen the movie called Da Vinci Code? Da Vinci Code? No. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you did not see it. So you see this style here, right? What the different than the one that you saw in the beginning, right? the Renaissance is like the meaning of Renaissance is like reborn. Reborn of what? Reborn of the new knowledge or the knowledge. So when you look at this, look at the anatomy. What do you think about the anatomy? Is look real or not? Does it look real? Right? It's look real. It's more like human. And then now, this is another sample of the Renaissance period, right? The one before is called David. This one we call David by Donatello. But you see different version of David from different artists. And this one is also expression of the God, right? The painting is called the Madonna and Child with the birth of Virgin. So you can see the connection between each image, right? So they use different frame to connect to each other. It's become the whole image. So the artist create the intense, realistic image, right? To express strong emotion about what? About the God, right? You can see during this period here, right? The reason this period is become so famous because, like I said, you see here the term of Renaissance is like a rebirth. Rebirth of what? Rebirth of the learning, the development, the art. During this period here, you can see a lot of things happen, such as this painting, right? You know who is the painter of this painting? Leonardo da Vinci, right? And what this painting name? Yes, Mona Lisa. What significant about this painting, right? This painting is a paint of the female, right? Without eyebrow, without eyebrow, right? She don't have eyebrow. But when you look at her eye, right? She like look at you, even though you're moving around in the room, the eye still look at you, right? And also on this particular one, right? Leonardo da Vinci, right? He very genius person. He can do like painting. He invent many things besides art, right? He also do like anatomy, doing a lot of mechanics and architects. In this one, he using the technique called sfumato, which means smoke. So what's significant about this technique? You can see the background of Mona Lisa, right? Do you feel it's far away, right? Something like this is close, something like that is far away. So sfumato technique is the technique to create a depth on the painting. Even though the painting is 2D, right? It's flat, it's flat. But you feel, it's like a window. You can look through it, right? Because something close, you have more detail. Something far away, you have less detail. Something very far, you feel like smoke onto that. And this another sample, the painting by Raphael. It's called School of Athens, right? This painting is painting on the church, on the chapel, and when you look at it, right, the technique, one of very unique technique that they used in that time is called perspective. Have you ever heard perspective, right? What does perspective mean? Perspective means something that closer to your eye is big, something far away is getting small. And then you see, right, this painting right here, you see this column here, right? And it have lead to this, right? You know who in the picture? Who these two person? Have you ever heard about that? One One, I think, if I'm not wrong, right? One is Aristotle, and one is Plato. Plato and Aristotle. Teacher and student, right? And Plato point to the sky, talking about his philosophy about utopia, right? And Aristotle point to the earth, right? Talking about the philosophy. Actually, the reason Raphael called this school of Athens because they put together a lot of famous philosophers into this picture. If you look through it, you're going to see a very important one, in here. For example, like this guy, people suspect his name is Michelangelo. And this is Raphael himself, right here. But the rest of the person you can find out by yourself. But with the perspective, right, besides it give you a dimension, right, it's also leading your eye to these two persons, right, as the most important part of this painting. Okay. Now, I'm going to just go through quickly, this is called Mannerism, which is talking about the idea that they use the art, right, to emphasize, the magnificence. So in this case, they use lighting. You can see the whole image is quite dark, but if you want to emphasize something, you can see it's bright, right? Even though this image is composed with a lot of things, right? But you're not going to see much, but your eye is, just read to this part right here. So it's the technique of presenting, right, by using the light. And the next one is called Baroque, right? Baroque. You heard about Baroque? No? Okay, that's fine. It's a reselection of the Christ. So when you look at, right, so the significance about this technique is the contrast, the contrast. The technique is to create the light and dark, to enhance the atmosphere. When we're talking atmosphere, we're talking about the whole atmosphere, right? And which area is light, you're going to see as a very focused point, and certain areas is dark, is become very subtle. And then after that, right? So this every period that I show you, right? It's developed in sequence. You can see the continuation between one period to another period. This one is called Rococo. So the work of this, right, is basically like another painting, which is the subject. So each period, right? You see now is still talking about the God, right? So far we saw, right? Mostly it's referred to the God, to the Christianity, the Jesus, and also this also still the same. You can see some angel, and you can see all right, okay. This one we call neoclassic. What is the classic? Classic is mean Greek and Roman. Neoclassic is become a new Greek and Roman. Why they call neoclassic? They characterize the clarity of the form. You can see, right? After they change the concept, in the beginning you see the Greek and Roman, right? You see the muscle very clear, and then when they're doing about the religion, doing the God, they want the God to be supremacy, right? To be very holy or very something. So it's become a supernatural. So it's not real, right? So they want to emphasize the godness. But now they call neoclassicism. So that means it's come back to the concept of realism again. to talking about the clarity of the form. But during that time, you realize a beautiful woman is not skinny, right? It's like chubby, a bit fat, but it's beautiful. If people in 1700 come to see our student in our school, so they're going to say, oh, it's all skinny, cannot be tall, right? Because the concept of beauty, you can see, is pretty much fat. In our period, is considered, quite fat. But in that time, it's considered very beautiful masterpiece. You should have this as a model to draw with, something like that. So the clarity of neoclassicism is the form of it, right? Which is is drawback to the ancient Greek and Roman. So they use the same of the admire. So, right? Then, now Romanticism, right? So Romanticism, now you see there's something changed, right? They're not talking about the God anymore, right? What they're talking about? They're talking about some moment, that you feel, inspire you, What is this picture here? This picture is the liberty reading the people in French during the Revolution, Civil War, right? So you can see it's not a soldier. It's just like somebody, just like normal people. They fight, right? You see the kid, old man, and no one dress up like the army, but they fight to the government. Right. So they're talking about the liberty. They're talking about the story of people that have some inspiration. And then the period called realism. Okay. So now, instead of some movement or a god or a religion, so during this period, people were interested in like everyday activity. Like a farmer doing something. So they call realism because first is look real. Second is real story, right? They want to communicate real story. They want to communicate the real activity, something like real life. And then Impressionism. After you become so real, right? Certain artists feel, it's become boring because during that time, right, is have the idea, is have photography already. So when you're drawing something, doesn't make sense to draw something real anymore. You want to add something beyond realism, right? So what you're going to add on to that? When you look at something beautiful, you feel impressed, right? And then when I look, for example, if I look at when I come to the school in the morning, right, I see the sunrise on the building 7, and I hear the birds singing. I feel this is like very beautiful, cool weather. So maybe I just paint like some fogs or some cool atmosphere. But try to capture that moment, on that. So instead of trying to make it real, right, it's become make what you feel. So they call Impressionism. So this Impressionism was influenced from many things, right? Inspired by photography, also inspired by the Japanese printing, Industrial Revolution, and also scientific color theory. I will explain about scientific color theory. So when you look at Impressionism, right, this one, the picture called Sunrise by Claude Monet. Have you ever heard about Monet? He very famous, right? And you see, this image was, painted quickly, in the near the river, so they can see the sunrise, right? you can see the paint is not much detail, right? Because when the sunlight is going up, maybe the period that you feel beautiful is only maybe 5 minutes, 3 minutes. That's it. And after that, it's getting too hot, right? So that means you have to go quickly to capture that moment. So when you capture that moment, right, on this particular idea, it's more pretty much like a sketch, because they have to paint quickly, try to capture what they feel in that time, right? So it's become look like sketch. And then when people doing the painting more, right? This one is also very famous. Painting is called the Sunday afternoon on the island of the La Grande Raquette in French, right? In French, the tourism area by Georges Seurat, right? So in this particular picture demonstrate, they call the new systematic method. What new about that? Seurat believe instead of mixing the color, blend it together and paint just like before, they want to point it out as a dot, like complementary color. Pointing maybe in the grass here is mixing between green, yellow, and maybe complementary color of yellow or green, something like that. And it's mixing in the human eye or brain, something like that. You can feel a color in your brain, not on the canvas, something like that. So that become a new or become an innovation in that part. And then after impression, so they call post-impression, right? So what is the post-impression? Post-impression, after you realize, experiment with many things, try to capture nature. So now you probably want to create something different, right? So this style was starting from south of France and then using a brighter color and aesthetic wide range of the subject. So basically it can be, everyday life or can be many things, right? And then also some people using photograph, right, to try to capture and in different viewpoint. I will talk about viewpoint later on. And then now after post, right, Seurat, right, this one, Georges Seurat, this guy, yeah, who invent the mixing type of dot, right? Now he did it again on here, neo-impression, right? So what he did, right, he using vivid color, placing a complementary color